back to Just Sayin. I'm Anne-Marie Battistone. The important one is here as well. That would be Christopher Weeder, Selectman, fierce Selectman of Norfolk. Now, I just want to say one thing. I should have mentioned this the very first thing, but the reason we call this Just Sayin is because we are just saying. It's not, we're not, it doesn't represent what
the views of the Board of Selectmen.
The views of the Board of Selectmen.
That's right.
And the other thing I just want to say very quickly to my fellow sufferers at the lower end of Seekonk Street, and I had asked you about this, but the reason some of the horns blast is the nanny state has deemed it important to put on the new trains a horn which cannot be modified by the conductor. Because God forbid the conductor make a decision about how loud to blow the horn, so the old trains, they could go toot, 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 and the newest goes, they just hit it. So that's why I was trying to find out who was blasting the horn, but it's a question of the new horns are not, there's no,
So it's a new system.
It's a new system, and you know, it's just one more of these things. They don't want people to make their own decisions about what they do. Anyways, you know, so I wanted to, that was a big meeting.
It was a long meeting.
We went to what, 11:15?
I think so.
That's right.
Yeah, it was a long one.
Now, I want to start with something simple. The appointments.
Yes.
Now, could you also say, now, there were, and there was the interim chief was appointed, and the fire chief.
Correct.
But could you talk about which of those boards are underserved, so people might know here if...
And anybody who wants to serve, there is on the website, the town website, they can apply. There's a form to apply to one of the committees. And I got my little cheat sheet because we had them in different colors. But the Insurance Advisory Board is looking for a candidate. They're a short one member.
Now, what do they do?
The insurance, they review, you know, look at our insurance.
Insurance coverage?
Yeah, see what's going on. Work with the chief financial officer. So they're missing one. We have an opening still on the Affordable Housing Trust.
That's about the 40Bs?
Nope, Affordable Housing Trust, part of the CPC, they do in affordable housing. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. We have two vacancies on the Corrections Advisory Board.
Now, was our mutual friend, the mechanic, going to be on that?
Kevin Roach is actually, he's still on it, as far as I understand.
So he has been
Yes.
on it all along.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
and there's another two.
Two vacancies.
And who do they meet with?
You know,
Do they meet with people from the prison?
I imagine they meet with the prison, yeah, and talk about different issues that come up. Yeah.
And that reminds me of something else, but go ahead.
And then the Council of Aging is missing a appointment.
One.
Yep. And then we have a vacancy on the Energy Committee still. And then my favorite committee, the Zoning Board of Appeals, has Medora Champagne has graciously agreed to stay on as long as she can. She has some other commitments that are going to prevent her from being at every meeting. So she said it's really unfair for her to be on the board for a long period of time.
And that's created an opening.
And so it's actually created two, and Bob Luciano, who has served on the board for 11 years, is moving out of town.
Oh.
So this was his last meeting last week. So we have two openings for associate members.
I mean, you really have to be up to speed with all that stuff to be a decent member, right?
Yeah, it takes learning. You have to learn the zoning book. You have to have a little bit of time on the board. It does help. It's certainly someone jumping in without any experience makes it probably very nerve-wracking for them and very scary because they don't know what you're talking about. So, and that's why we do have associates, to jump in if we need them, and also to learn to prepare for the future.
Because I know some people never say anything.
Yeah. Now some don't, some do. Some of us are big mouths, others are not.
Now, when you mentioned the corrections, I wanted to get back to you about something that the mitigation money that you said is granted to us but not owed.
Correct. Prison mitigation money.
How is that different? If in other words, and how do we know what the amount actually is?
Well, the governor eventually will sign into law the mitigation money, and then it's distributed to the communities, obviously, that have prisons. So it's actually done at the state level. It goes through committee. Sean Dooley, I think, is part of that. And then eventually the town is awarded a certain amount of funds. The problem is it used to be a guaranteed. And then the state started to use that money for other programs. So there was one year, I think a couple of years back, where the town didn't get it when they were relying on it for salt and for road work. And it really caused some financial difficulties for the town. So the town does look forward to it, but it's not always there. The state sometimes pulls it.
And I mean, when you start to, hear about all these lies that are told and the things with the state troopers and the overtime, I am so skeptical now about. I mean, I don't know if there's any way you can really know. I mean, there's so many layers.
That's the problem. There's
to
a
go
lot of
through
layers to figure out what is
really there for you.
Best bet is our state reps to continue to have our state reps to look into this stuff, make sure we're getting our fair share, especially Norfolk, which houses multiple prisons. I think we deserve it. The people do.
Oh, absolutely. Now, I gasped. I was very proud of you that you found this. The 6,500. I really was, and I almost gave one of those Marge Simpson gasps when she goes, and I thought, so when they were making these transfers, and the whole thing is that you can't have a balance go too low, or whatever the level is, on an account, and so you transfer to sort of cover it up as needed.
Right.
And you saw a $6,500 transfer out of the finance. What?
It was what they did was there was a number of transfers, and the books have to balance at the end of the year, June 30th.
Yeah.
So we can't have unpaid bills out there. So at the end of the year, they make transfers to cover all our costs.
Right.
And they come out of different departments. Some come from finance department, some come from, as you know, a lot came from the DPW budget because they don't have a highway superintendent right now. But one of the transfers too, or what I was looking at, is where is the money going?
Right.
And any of this money that's not transferred will eventually go to free cash. So we'll be able to use it after June 30th.
But that's also supposed to be noted somewhere.
That will be noted. That will be noted what we use our free cash for. We can't just go and spend it. We have to actually earmark it.
So wait a minute. So if the 6,500 didn't show going somewhere else, then
it would eventually become free cash.
But in that interim, you've got a column that doesn't say what it should say, right?
No, they'd still balance. The issue there was.
Do you understand my question?
Not really, but let me explain what they did. What they were looking to do is they have to obviously pay all their bills, and they got to make sure their accounts all balanced. So if the budget says, 72,000, the actual better either be less or the same amount, not more. In the case of the rec department, anytime I see salaries, you ask yourself the question, why is there?
Because you mentioned a shortfall in salaries.
Why is there a salary transfer? Because you say we develop a budget unless we brought another person on, and even if we brought another person on, we'd obviously have to be able to fund that person. So when I saw we were moving that kind of money, $6,500, it's why? Why are we moving that kind of money? And the answer was, well, there was a contractual agreement with an employee by the prior administration. The problem is it wasn't approved at town meeting.
Wasn't told to the selectmen.
And the Board of Selectmen,
as far as we know,
according to
the
town administrator, it was never reviewed or approved by the Board of Selectmen. And everybody agreed that this
was Jack.
This would probably be under Jack's administration. Or whether or not Jim was involved in it when he was the interim for a period. But in either case, this should not happen. We should never have a transfer or an increase in salaries without either being approved at town meeting as a warrant item or approved by the selectmen.
I think it's outrageous.
It is.
In my humble opinion.
It's one of those items that's very frustrating. I think the administration wanted to just put it past them and move forward. But I think we brought it to light, and I think it's important that it doesn't happen again.
Now, what I'd like to know is, why did you have to be the one to uncover that? Why didn't somebody already see that and say when those sheets were, when you all opened your sheets, why didn't somebody already say, by the way, this is in here? How come nobody else saw it?
Maybe it's background. Maybe it's I mean, when I look at things, I look at variances. I always want to see what the variance is. That's just training. Maybe the rest weren't looking that way. I think in the future, Blythe will probably be much more
Because she didn't seem too happy.
Transparent with those items. Well, it's a tough thing when you have to explain a $6,500 shortfall that no one can account for. It's very difficult to say, well, it was agreed to, but nobody really knew it was going to happen.
Isn't that an arrogance that borders on a fiduciary irresponsibility? It's still $6,000. It's taxpayers' money.
$6,000 of taxpayer money. It shouldn't have happened. It should not have happened. It should have been approved by somebody at some point in time, and they blew it. Somebody blew it.
Can't make this stuff up, honest
Yeah,
to God.
somebody blew it.
Huh. Well,
But we moved past it.
No,
Obviously,
who
the
blew it?
employee was paid, so we certainly have to transfer the money to cover the cost. So the sad part is, as the old saying goes, the horse was out of the barn.
I mean, it's not about whether she deserved it or not.
Has nothing to do with the
Nothing to do
individual.
with
The
It has to
recreation
do with the
department
whole
does a
way
great
the whole
job.
thing was handled.
Right. Correct.
Terrible.
Correct.
On the water ban,
Yes.
I bet some people have already filled their pools.
Probably have. Probably have.
And you know, I don't know. I mean, I can't understand that with this tremendous amount of rain that we've had. And I understand they want to be, but I mean, it seems to me that do they look at the actual levels before they make these, or do they just do it out of hand?
It's a standard every year practice, and the reason being is, and I wasn't even aware of this, we go from 300 to 400,000 gallons of water a day off season to 1 million gallons in the summer. 600,000 gallons of water a day. It's amazing.
I know.
I'd like to know where it's all going. So it's an enormous jump. So it's a standard practice the town does just to keep the limits on people, and it's probably a good policy just to make sure that we don't get into a point where we're overtaxing our two wells. And that's what they worry about, is when you really start to draw down your wells too far, and then they can't recover fast enough.
I mean, I don't know. So do they? Is there a way that they measure it? They don't. They just
They can
say
actually,
it. They don't.
No, they can actually measure. They can measure everybody's water use. They actually can.
Well, I know they
tell
can measure
you-
your use.
Yeah,
But I mean,
but they can measure use of the water. They can't measure how much the wells have. I think they can probably measure how much water's in the wells as well. Not my expertise.
right. But it would seem to But it would seem to me that you'd wait until. I mean, with all of this rain, there's been so.
You never want to wait till it's too late.
Well,
because
not
again,
till it's
with a
too
well-
late, but I
yeah,
mean.
you never want to wait. So
And so, speaking of wells, there's a new well coming online.
yeah, won't be till next year though. Won't be till next year.
And where will
That's
that be?
That's Holbrook Street. They call it Holbrook Street Extension on the road that goes from 115 to Millis. It's that long.
Yeah.
It's a very nice flat road.
Yes,
very
yes.
well paved. Yeah, it's going to be down there.
I assume on the right hand side as
Correct.
you're heading
Correct.
where the.
Correct. Yep.
Now, what does something like that cost? Do you happen to
Oh,
know?
it's millions. It's millions.
So have they waited a while to open it?
No,
What's
there's all
involved
kinds
in?
of testing that has to go on. All kinds of testing, government approvals. Yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into bringing a well online. It's not just you go and put a wellhead there and start pumping. So it's a lot of work involved in that. So they're going through all the administrative and procedural methods that they have to follow in order to put it online, and then it'll come online. There's testing for different chemicals, testing for everything. It's amazing. A lot of work goes into a well coming online. And that's why you're proactive and you start years early, because it takes so long.
Because, I don't remember which adjoining town it was, but I was talking to some people, and they haven't heard a peep about a water ban.
About a water
A
ban?
water ban.
Yeah.
So it has to do with the quality of their aquifers as opposed to ours, or their wells as opposed to.
I think some towns probably delay it. Typically I see Medfield coming online about the same time Norfolk does. I've never seen, I don't think Rentham has a problem.
It was Rentham. The people
Okay,
were from
yeah,
Rentham.
Rentham doesn't seem to have a problem. They have plenty of water, so they don't impose a water ban.
So it's situational.
Yeah. Norfolk's in a tough situation with our two wells. We don't have extra water.
Now, another thing here, this is astonishing to me that, I mean, I wish people, I wish you all would send letters in and ask him questions, because I would love to sit here and look at this and say, Susie Q of Patriot Way writes, and I'm saying Patriot Way because these banal names on this development, I mean, does it have to be a deceased vet? I mean, can't it be anybody, Frank Gross, for crying out loud, who did so much for Norfolk?
Yeah.
I mean, and people are even going to mix the names up. I mean, what about people that are still alive? Older
I'm
people.
surprised.
I mean,
I didn't realize
Roach. I mean,
Yeah, we don't do veterans who are still alive. We only do people who have passed. So that's sort of interesting. There was, Dot Campbell, who a lot of people knew in town, was the first dispatcher forever. She lived in the house right next to 25 Rockwood. So,
Okay.
but the problem is we have Campbell. We have Campbell Road
Oh,
right
that's
now.
where it's going up in there.
Yeah, so, but, so you'd like to think something like that, but, you know, you can't say Campbell Way. You could maybe.
Yeah.
But,
People
and there
just say Campbell
and I
Way,
think-
or they'd
I
say,
think Punky Ware a guy named Punky Ware used to own that property years ago. So, I mean, you know, you could do a number of things, but I think they had gone to the planning board. The planning board had looked at this. My understanding is the historical commission had looked at this. And so no one could come up with any better names. So they came up with Pilgrim and I forget what the other one is.
Patriot Way.
So there you
people
go.
they'll get it all mixed up when they're trying to
There you
find
go.
parties
It's very,
and that sort of thing.
Very supportive
Is
of
it
our
written-
New England Patriots. So.
Is it written down somewhere that it has to be a deceased vet?
Yeah, they actually have the planning board has a list of what.
But
what it
if
should
you
be.
ask, because a lot of these developers put their children's names on the streets.
They try to get them through. Yeah.
But if they're challenged, you've got to have a name to give them.
Exactly.
So if you have no names,
That's right. And in this case, it seemed that no names came forward. Too bad.
it is.
Yeah.
I mean, shouldn't that be changed? I mean, couldn't that be changed so that it could be a
It could.
distinguished family or?
It's a planning board function. Yeah. But it could be. Yep. I agree.
Okay, let's see. What else was there? Because couldn't they even put geographic references on the names of the streets?
Again, I don't know how they, a lot of it has to do with also the fire department, police department. They want to make sure, remember, they've got to be able to get into these places and they don't want some crazy name that they can't figure out.
Well,
so
no,
they're
crazy.
very-
I mean,
yeah.
to me, those names are so similar.
So
I think they
But
would.
it's that has a lot to do with it as well, what the fire department, police department want to have listed. They don't want to have any very strange names out there. It makes it a lot easier for the officers finding their way in. So there's a lot that goes into it. It's not as black and white as I think we think. Yeah.
And they only had two streets to name.
Yeah, that's all. There's 2 ways in there. That's it. Yep.
Now, the never-ending debate of aluminum and copper.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to look at my phone for one
No,
second.
no, go
for you.
ahead.
I apologize. It looks like we'll be all right. Okay, go ahead.
The never-ending debate between aluminum and copper. Now, the facilities manager, that's his title? Okay.
Or director. I don't know. I think he's facility
So
director.
they decide they want to save some money with aluminum.
Right.
And you, again, brought up shingles. And this would be the cupola, and the monitors, which are those little things that stick out if you have a dormer window.
Correct.
Yeah. And
You're
so,
learning a lot about roofs. More than everybody wants to learn about roofs, I think.
and so the argument was made to you that you would require repairs and access would be difficult. And you countered with saying, what repairs?
Right.
So these would be the same shingles that they're going to put on, which was another story last night, or 2 nights ago. And again, there was a defense made about the design, the performance, the performance-based decision, and this, that, and the other. And I mean, me personally, I would be so skeptical of anybody that the state is using to say anything. So it would have saved how much if they put aluminum in the cupolas and the other thing?
If they did aluminum versus the copper,
$40,000?
they were going to save $40,000.
All right.
And I estimated that you would probably save, if you did shingles as opposed to either copper or aluminum, you would save close to $62,000.
Another 22.
Yeah.
So again, the differential on the prices of copper and aluminum came in wrong,
Correct.
which you let go.
Yep. Well, I let go. I mentioned it.
You
but
mentioned the 50-cent business.
Well, we had talked about it, and I did mention it. We were told at the last meeting there was only a 50 cents difference in copper versus aluminum, but the contractor, in his details this time, showed us that it was almost $3 a
You
square
went to a
foot
supplier,
difference.
didn't you, and got a...
Well, I had gotten the price long ago, and I knew it was that much. But he had actually identified on paper in our meeting that it was about $3 a square foot difference. So it was not 50 cents.
But now they were saying that aluminum is 3/4 of the cost of copper when it's really half the cost of copper.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and at the end of the day,
Not
as
good.
I said,
In my
nobody's performance you're putting as I tried to mention, you're doing 890 squares. So
And
it's
meaning
89,000 square feet of shingles on that building. 60,000 square feet is what the monitors and the cupola make up.
That much?
Yeah. So to say that, copper will look prettier, but the problem is, will it perform better? And that was my whole point. This performance has nothing to do with this. The shingles are going to last 50 years according to all the warranties they're providing. The aluminum will last probably 50 years. It only has a lifespan of about 30 years because of acid rain and things like that. And the copper, though copper will last 100 years, the problem with both the aluminum and the copper is, neither one comes with a manufacturer warranty.
Oh, is that right? Not even the aluminum?
No, the aluminum
What about the
doesn't come-
installation?
Just the installation is a 2-year warranty.
Okay.
There is no manufacturer warranty. So after 2 years, if we have a windstorm and the aluminum blows up, it's on our backs.
Mm-hmm.
If the buildings shift and the copper joints that are soldered crack, it's on us.
That building would have settled by now.
No, they still have cracking and shifting of buildings. And the problem
I
is
suppose so, right.
with aluminum and copper, you're not going to see the leaks that quickly. You probably won't see them at all. You'll find out they existed is when the sheathing, the wood underneath, starts to rot, and it's too late.
Oh, you never brought this up. I never
I didn't
heard
bring
you
this
say
up because this is my knowledge of the roofing
It
profession.
makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and were we putting a 50-year shingle everywhere, as I proposed even at town meeting, why not just put a 50-year shingle everywhere? If you wanted to save some money and not gold plate it, which I've used that term over and over again, just do shingles. As long as the manufacturer is willing to guarantee them, which is better than you're going to get with copper or aluminum. So to me, your price and performance is a lot higher with the shingles. Why not go that route? Plain and simple. And it seems as if we're looking at that option now.
I mean, the word aesthetics came up.
I've always believed that the reason copper was chosen was an aesthetic appeal, which is wonderful if you or I want to do it on our home. But I don't think on a school or on any government building we need to go to that standard. Most towns, we do an enormous amount of work for the cities of Somerville, Newton, Brookline, and all of them have banned copper on their buildings because it gets stolen. It's just not worth the value. And it's beautiful. I mean, I have copper downspouts on my house.
Oh.
And I'm willing to pay that extra bit to do it. But I certainly wouldn't put it on a government building.
Because the objection was still raised about aesthetics.
Yeah.
And stuff has to be changed. And the architect this and that, blah, blah, blah. And then you just kept saying, well, the warranty is key.
Yeah, it is. To me, in the roofing business, the warranty is the most important part. No matter what else happens, if your roof isn't warranted, what good is it?
Now, would you mind explaining again? I know you did this once, and David Rosenberg, he raised the question twice at town meeting, and then he asked again the other night.
About the warranty.
So, okay, when they say 50 years, what does that actually mean in reality?
Shingles are prorated, similar to tires on cars. Similar to tires on cars. So on a shingle, every year it starts to lose value.
Right.
So at the end of 25 years, these shingles that they spec'd will have like a 40% value left on them.
Okay.
And from there, by the 50th year, you might get 10% of the purchase price back. And no more. And that is only on the shingle because the shingle is being used in a commercial application. If it's used on a residential application, you can get labor and material up to 50 years. But because it's being used on a commercial application, the only warranty the manufacturer will give you on labor is 4 years, as long as you're a certified installer. And Greenwood is a certified installer. So they'll get 4 years labor on their work. But after 4 years, if shingles start blowing off, the town will have to pay a contractor to go in there and replace the shingles.
And the ones they repair will also have to be paid for because they will have lost some of their value.
Now, a portion of them will have to be paid for because they'll have lost value.
Because they're
exactly.
going to, right.
They keep losing value.
Now, didn't you just say 2 years, a couple
2 years,
seconds ago?
2 years on certain items are going to be covered. 2 years on some of the flashings are covered. The contract basically says 2 years is what the installer is required to do. The shingle manufacturer bumps that up another 2 years. Now there is opportunity, which wasn't taken on this contract, is a lot of times contractors will, or towns will specify the contractor has to give them a gold seal warranty, which means that it becomes a 20-year or 25-year non-prorated. Contractor has to warranty it for 25 years.
That would be very more expensive.
More expensive,
Much
but
more
it wasn't.
expensive, I
It
should
wasn't
think.
included. It actually isn't that expensive. It's amazing how cheap warranties are in the roofing profession. That wasn't part of this contract, so we didn't take advantage of that opportunity either. So, these items I brought up tell me this roof is going to be the best roof you can get without having to do copper or aluminum. So there really isn't any better performance by either one of those two items. A shingle with a 50-year warranty is going to be as good, if not better. It certainly will have a longer warranty than both the copper and the aluminum from the installer.
So let me ask you: is it possible to come up with a number in reality of what that guarantee is? Once you get into this prorating,
Yeah.
I mean, what does it really mean? I mean, does it really mean it's 25 years?
It's not even.
Should it count at 25?
It's basically, it's basically a 10-year warranty.
10.
That's about it on the shingles. After that, you're really losing all your value. You really are. So you don't get that. And I think it came up at town meeting, and I don't think the architect or the engineer, Gale Associates, he knew that this was not really the term 50-year warranty is a misnomer. Matter of fact, if you call Home Depot right now and say, "Do you have lifetime shingles?" They'll say, "Absolutely. We can offer you a certainty lifetime shingle." It's the same thing as a 50-year shingle. They call it a lifetime shingle. It's not a lifetime shingle.
Why doesn't somebody step in and do something about this? A lot of people are fooled and mixed up.
I think people are very fooled by it.
It's like an industry.
But today, most people don't live in their house after 25 years. And most of these shingle warranties for residentials, which is what they're really based on, is residential homes. They don't worry about it because most of them are non-transferable.
Now, do you think this project was planned properly?
No, I said it at Selectmen's meeting. If these are items that should have been addressed prior to it ever coming to town meeting, prior to it ever coming to the Board of Selectmen. I felt that there was a number of things that should have been addressed that weren't. And I just don't think it was planned properly. I don't think...
Do you think there was a reason behind that?
I think it was nothing against the school board. I think they knew they needed a new roof. Nothing against the facility director. But neither one of these groups, I think, have expertise in roofing. And I think you needed to have somebody with some expertise in roofing to look at this. At town meeting last year, we approved the roof to be looked at. But again, it was done through a program with the state, which uses state engineers, state OPMs. It isn't done, I don't believe...
Owner's project manager.
Yeah. I don't think it's done in the best interest of the taxpayers.
No.
And I think if it was, we wouldn't have had $100,000 in there for copper.
And quite honestly, I mean, one wonders about the quality of these people that the state hires.
Oh.
I mean, I do. I mean, it's all about money and
other
things.
I think a lot of people like the look.
Merit is not always,
No,
but I'm
right.
talking about these people that the state hires and sends out. I mean, merit it's not a meritocracy.
Yeah, right. I agree.
Now, the other thing, now they are, again, this is me, in my opinion, I would say this to anybody, this is like a magnificent obsession, this roof. Now they're worried about the pattern.
Yes, the pattern.
And they found out, they found out the difference in price.
Right.
And they were going to raise the money,
Yep.
but then Kevin, actually, I wanted to go back because Kevin, when all of this came up, because they wanted Matt to get some information. And Kevin was wondering about the time frame, right?
Right.
And so how was that? That was very fuzzy to me. How was that left?
Yeah.
Because you said Greenwood should be able to give them an answer in 24 hours.
Yeah, Greenwood should be able to get.
But there was a lot of hemming and hawing about that.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. I mean, they were talking about the design changes. Greenwood had put together.
It's not a design change.
It isn't. Greenwood had put together a mock-up already of what the pattern would look like. So they had already done a mock-up and they had already figured the cost. So they knew.
For these people that were concerned or
No,
from the beginning?
for the facility director, recently.
Recently,
yeah.
okay.
So they had put together a pattern. So they knew what the pattern was. They knew what it would cost them to do it. The question was, could it be funded? And the school was very articulate in their reasons why they felt it's important. And it's
all sort of symbolic and romantic.
It is, and God forbid, Principal Balfour, she knows this place better than I ever will, and she understands the children far better than I ever would. So certainly not going to be an area where I'm going to question that if this band has a intrinsic value as opposed to an economic value. She really believes it has an intrinsic value. The assistant principal believes it has an intrinsic value. So I was less worried about that because they really believed in this. The question again goes to, once you cut a shingle, once you create more water channels because of this pattern, is the manufacturer going to warranty this section? And again, this is
which they did not ask.
Which they did not get the answer to, but should have, because again, at the end of the day, what should the taxpayer be concerned with? A waterproof roof that has a warranty. And it was made such a big deal about the 50-year warranty at town meeting, that becomes a very important part. So the whole point was go back, ask the manufacturer, we're going to put together a pattern, will you warranty it still? The manufacturer should be able to do that within 24 hours.
Because Ernie Alex, God bless him, I didn't catch on to what he was saying right away, but he was talking about he said Lego pattern. I think he meant maybe like a Greek key where it's all straight.
Correct.
And
exactly.
in that case, there'd be no cutting.
It wouldn't be the diagonal cuttings. It would be straight cuttings. So that was his point. And Ernie made a very good point. And Ernie's a construction guy, so he knows this. One of the major things in roofing is you never want edges. You always round all your corners,
right?
Or you keep them square.
Right.
We tend to like to round them. So Ernie knows this, and he's very clear about that. And cutting angles and shingles, again, the weight of the shingle is changed, so you could get some uplift, but that could be taken care of
because of the piece that was cut off.
It changes the weight of the shingles,
right?
Which actually makes the shingle probably lighter.
But then, doesn't something have to be fit in there?
Another shingle would be fit in there. It's actually cut, absolutely. So the
to
water
make the
channels,
contrast.
But you have ice and water shield over the whole roof.
Yeah.
And anybody will tell you what really is protecting our roofs today, better than anything. We never had this in the past. Is ice and water shield. Today, ice and water shield is put all over the entire roof. Years ago they used tar paper. Today we don't use tar paper anymore. We use ice and water shield 100%.
Underneath.
Under the shingles, 100%. So, and it's like putting a rubber membrane.
Yes, that's right.
On the whole
I saw
roof.
them. Yeah.
So and it very, very rarely ever fails. So ice and water shield is the key that keeps roofs watertight.
So then this original roof did not have the ice and water.
Did not have the ice water shield. 25 years ago,
didn't have all these
sometimes
plastics.
It was 3 feet, 6 feet, but most of the roofs were all tar paper. That's all. And they breathability, and ice and water shield wasn't available. So, but yeah, this band will have to. It's covered under warranty, and they can afford to do it with the savings we're going to have.
And then the savings, and then Matt said, well, if we do use the shingles on the cupola and the monitors, that savings could be used on the decorative roof.
Yeah. A little bit of a change in stance on that, which was somewhat interesting, at least from my perspective. Again, could have been thought out better, I think, before town meeting. And that was my whole point, was you never move forward with something that if you're not 100% sure what you're doing. And I don't feel we had that.
Now,
But they're going to make a decision. They're going to research the shingles on the cupolas and the monitors. Then they're going to evaluate whether or not we have enough savings that they can do the band in front. That's the only place they would do the band, is in the front of the school. And they're going to leave that up to Blythe, the town administrator, to review that information and make a decision. So they've actually stripped, if you notice, they've stripped the front of Olive Day School, and they've got ice and water shield on it right now. So they're moving ahead. And I think the contractor, the other advantage by using shingles is it's going to save the contractor time. He's actually going to cut his time down by probably 30 days in that area, because shingles go on a lot faster. Now the band is going to take him a little longer, but by not having to do the cupolas in either aluminum or in copper, he's going to save himself probably a month of some men. So he could put those men towards other projects on the job.
And with that, we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Now, those gardens, and it made a lot of sense. We were talking about the Charles River watershed in these gardens to get soil as opposed to a flat surface, impervious surface to go into the. Now, I didn't hear who was going to pay for the plant material, who's going to put it in, and who's going to maintain it. Because I'll tell you, the landscaping around the library, I think, is disgraceful.
Yeah, it's,
And I've spoken to them in the library, and they don't seem to want to. I don't know. They don't seem to want to ask to have it. I mean, I have gone up there and pulled out weeds.
yeah.
So how are these things? Who's going to do now? If the garden club commits to it,
Yeah, I think it's very hard for the Garden Club does a wonderful job up at Town Hill. There's actually a couple individuals who put in a huge amount of time.
Yep.
And I don't think I would ask the Garden Club to be burdened. I think the problem with all these wonderful little ideas, especially with regard to these water plants and absorption rates, is who's going to maintain it.
and it wasn't even addressed.
We don't have a large enough DPW to go around making sure these things get done. If we can't do what we have right now, how can we take on more? So I agree with you. I think it's a great idea, but people don't have the time to start maintaining these additional gardens.
And then
there's
even
some
mention
concern
the money
about
to buy the plant material.
and also the medium and putting it in. Who's going to do this?
Yes.
I mean, people want to see their roads done. They want to see the trees along the streets trimmed. They want to see the streets cleaned up. That's where the effort's got to go. And if we can't do that now, we shouldn't be taking on more.
But I didn't understand why nobody said anything about that.
Yeah, it's
Now,
an issue.
on the safety building, all right, so
Yes, public safety.
what they have left is approximately 2.4 million, and the fire department building needs a total of 4.8. Now, what do you think?
The fire department building was budgeted for 4.8 back when we received the $14 million.
And when was that?
That was back 2 years ago.
Okay.
What's left, and the police station had the remainder with a contingency. What's left of all the monies for public safety building, fire station, revamp is $2.8, $2.7 million. Clearly not enough to renovate, clearly not enough to put a new fire station in. And I think this is what most people are very concerned with, is what happened. And the town administrator has agreed that in the fall, we will have a meeting to explain to the public what happened, because they should be outraged. You heard it at the meeting, there was 35% change orders on this public safety building. This is extraordinary, outrageous.
A third.
Should have never happened.
So why didn't, if there was an owner's, owner's
project manager.
Why didn't that wasn't reported? Why didn't they report it?
Well, I guess they were along the way. If you watch some of the public safety buildings, there was a lot of difficulties with the first OPM, and that's why they removed them.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of issues. But again, you question how it got there. And I will know that answer to the fall. I don't have the expertise, or I was not involved to know why we got where we ended up getting. But we will, I think the taxpayers are owed an explanation. And especially if we're going to, in the future, be coming to them, asking them to fund a fire station. I would say most of them would say no unless they have an explanation as to what happened.
Now, I heard the figure of 10 to 25,000 to find out if it's actionable.
Right.
So, I mean, you're throwing, I mean, it's like throwing good money after bad in a way, but that's a very tough decision when you have to decide whether or not to, if you're going to get your, return on.
I think the board decided that BC Construction, who is the construction company that has completed the work, has agreed to put together what they feel is the total cost of change orders that were unnecessary. Is what I'm
So they're trying to help us.
Yeah. So if they come up with $1 million or $2 million worth of change orders that were made that we shouldn't have had to pay for, then I would say spend the $25,000. But what I don't want to do is find out that it's $100,000 or $125,000, because the litigation will be 3 to 5 years.
Oh, yes.
And I just don't see a path forward for the town on this. This is one of those things, it's a capital project. It's not like a zoning violation where when we put money towards that, we're protecting our zoning bylaws. In this case, we bought something, somehow it got mismanaged. You know what? Move forward unless there's really something there. My opinion.
What a mess.
Yeah.
And why does Blythe want a new committee to look at the fire station building?
Her concern was that people, and I don't know, I don't know if this is the case, is that people are somewhat cynical of that last committee and what happened. So to put the same group back in place, and
Right,
some
because it
can't
was
be
a
on
committee,
it.
not just the OPM, but there were other
Oh yeah,
people.
this is a committee. And obviously the selectmen, one of the selectmen is no longer a selectman, so he couldn't be on it. She just felt it would be better to revamp the committee and maybe this time have more engineers on it, building maintenance people,
From the
not
town.
have who live in town,
Yeah.
not have employees of the town, other than the fire chief, who would really have to be on this
I heard
committee.
that, but
Yeah.
but the employees that would have been on it wouldn't have been just, I don't know, somebody who had
Well,
nothing about.
Well, we had Todd Lindmark, the finance director, was on it. Matt Hafner, who's the facility director, was on it. We had Chuck Stone, who's the police chief, on it. We had Cole Bushnell, was the fire chief, on it. And we had a couple of at-large members. George Cronin was the chairman.
No, you're talking about the safety building right
The safety
now.
building. So what they want to do is have the fire station committee to have more expertise on it and not
Technical
employees of the town.
expertise rather
Exactly.
than, oh.
Yeah, because really what is the board's job is to review with the OPM any problems that are going on and correct them and make decisions.
I mean,
So-
it seems like it shouldn't have fallen through the cracks like it did.
They'll be very interesting
I
this
mean,
fall.
people are
understand
going to
what
be,
happened. I think people are already upset.
and I don't think a lot of people know. I think a lot of people just don't know what goes on.
No, you have to
And-
watch your show to find out.
And then there's another thing I wanted to mention. Now, I saw them talking today on the community Facebook about sidewalks on Cleveland Street.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't understand why people think, why don't they just pick up the phone and call the town? One of their peers is not, but they were saying, well, if there's enough votes, they'll have to do it. Well, I mean, that's not right, is it?
Well-
I mean, it seems that it betrays an ignorance about how town government works.
Well, I think people think that by
Because it would be an override.
strengthen numbers. If we wanted to put sidewalk, I think people are seeing is Cleveland Street's going to be repaved next week. They milled it last week.
Yeah.
And they're going to repave it next week because it is going to become the detour for Seekonk
Right.
Street when they do the gas
Right.
work. And the road was in such deplorable shape.
Right. Not
that-
all of it, though.
A good portion of
yeah,
it.
yeah.
A portion of it was done already.
Yeah.
But the area, especially by my house, was in such deplorable shape that there a lot of people thanked me
It's
and
just
said, "Boy, it must
surely
have
a
been
coincidence."
Yeah, just purely coincidence that they're repaving by my house, but that it should be repaved. So I think a lot of people are saying, "Geez, while you're repaving, wouldn't you do a sidewalk?"
But it's two different things, isn't
It's
it?
a different
I mean, you've got to
project.
cut away the soil.
Yeah, it's a different
You've got to
project.
dig that out.
Yeah.
I mean, even I know that.
Yeah.
You've got to you've got to order you've got to
Yeah.
pay for the
It's a lot of-
curbing
it's a lot of
or the
work to
berms
do.
or whatever you're going to do.
Yeah, it's a
And
lot of work.
I just think that people have a sense of entitlement
Yeah, yeah.
that
Well, I think they, again, strengthen numbers on the internet and on Facebook page, and they're trying to get people to embrace these ideas. And sidewalks, there used to be a sidewalk fund in town, and any new development was supposed to have a sidewalk. So there was a real call out for sidewalks in Norfolk.
But if there's nowhere to walk except a neighbor's house, in this type of a town, in this day and age,
Yeah.
are people going to be walking up and down the sidewalk?
Yeah, we determined at one point that it would be a 40-minute walk from Seekonk Street, the new
that.
development, to the center of town. Well, most people who are taking the train are not going to walk 40 minutes.
No, but
to
I'm
get
just
on a
saying,
train.
even on
Yeah,
that
there's
aside.
not a lot of places to go. Correct.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, if you're gonna, unless
Anywhere
maybe
you have to
walking
go in
next
Norfolk,
door, then
yeah.
you don't mind, a
Right.
little bit.
Anywhere you have to go in Norfolk, you have to drive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And so I don't know. It just seems like there's a sort of a naivete about that I don't quite understand. Was there anything else you can think of in the
Nope,
last
they're
couple of minutes?
repaving Seekonk, they're repaving Grove Street and Cleveland Street next week. That's good news. I think a lot of people are going to be happy to be able to drive down Cleveland Street and not have it be such a bumpy mess. So that's great.
When
There's
does
the senior center is having a luncheon tomorrow, but I think it's a barbecue, but I think that's been, people had to sign up. I had a chance to meet Sherry today and get a walkthrough over their senior center, which is it's a fantastic place.
oh, you think so?
Yeah, I think it's gonna, I think a lot
Have
of
they
people.
changed the interior?
No, I think the interior is the same, but I think they've done a good job, and they've got a lot of areas for people to participate in yoga. They've got Zumba classes, I guess. Yeah, it really. I think it's being underutilized. The kitchen is amazing. It's an amazing kitchen.
But yet they don't
have there.
serve meals.
No, they don't. But I think they're working on that. So yeah, so that was
I
interesting.
wonder why they're not serving meals if they have this kitchen.
Yeah. Well, it's again it would have to be who serves them.
Yeah.
We don't have
And
have
cooks
staff.
and all.
We don't have staff. So, but that was a great walk through there. So yeah, some nice things going on. we'll continue to push forward.
What else can we do?
That's it.
What else can we do? Thank you for watching Just Sayin'. We've been Just Sayin', and again, write in if you have any questions or comments. Willing to get them. And as I say, I want to say so and so from this street asks. So anyway, so thanks very much for watching. I'm here with Christopher Weeder, our fierce selectman. I'm Anne Marie Battistone, and thanks very much for watching. Bye-bye.